In the hunt, I unleashed my wildness, but a scream broke the peace, and I had to face unknown threats. It's a double test of courage and wisdom. Chapter 14. I look at my peripheral, making sure Kara could feel my burning gaze. When she turned to look at me with an obvious sneer on her face, I gave her a smug. Did that? She diverts her attention from me to Theo, who she turns to with the fake street smile on her face. I almost snorted at her act. Theo. She starts. You know I'm not comfortable with other Theo. With an emotional face, Theo sighs and disrupts her. Cut it. You need to stop relying on me. Dear sister, it's been for years. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Move on. Please. Let's start with spending time with others and not just me. I grit my teeth together and purse my lips. Kara's knockoff smile immediately drops and transforms into a frown. Then, her eyes travel to me once again with the most maddening gaze. I frown at her irritation. Fine, she says before following me oblivious. Lovey-dovey couple to their own ride. Before she does, to my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. She passes by me and nudges me. I didn't think twice before shoving her harder than she did. She stumbles but doesn't fall to the ground like I desired. What a fucking bitch. We glare at each other for God knows how long before Theo lets out a resolute behave. Kara's head snaps to him, but I narrow my eyes at her but chose not to speak. Keep talking. You motherfucker. Stop making trouble. Theo says, tight-lipped. His eyes were filled with rage, but not too much that it scared me go. The brows on Kara's upset face furrow together as she makes her way to Scarlett and Amelia, who both sported a grim countenance. They were paying attention. Theo releases a deep sigh one last time as he kept his eye on his sister. When she hesitantly entered the car, Theo finally turns to me, a reassuring smile entering his face. It's our turn to leave. He crouches to my eye level and nods his head to an executive black car, which I don't know what brand it is since I'm a rogue who never had the chance to own or even look at such things. I just knew it was shiny and expensive. I unconsciously grin at the thought. Let's get moving. I clear my head of Kara and squeak out an to my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I follow Theo to the vehicle, ready to look at the scenery as he drove and fall asleep to the beautiful view of nature. Why can't it be nighttime already? I wanted to experience the nighttime rides witchcraft that teenagers speak of. Theo pulls to a stop in front of me and opens the door to the passenger seat. What a gentleman. Thank you. I mutter. You're welcome, he says and enters the car, starting the drive. He turns on the radio to play some music and turns the volume higher but not loud enough to burst my eardrums. I don't think your sister likes me. I blurt out, then release a heavy sigh. Since when did anyone not hate you? I scoff and say, oh right. He chuckles but soon, his expression morphs into one full of earnestness. His brows furrow as he processes his thoughts. Forgive her. He hesitates. With one hand on the wheel, he runs his other hand through his tousled hair. She has suffered a lot. I know it isn't a justifiable reason, but she's broken and I don't wish to make her condition any worse than it already is. I guess it's a brother thing. Okay, I tell him, understanding, not tolerating the silence that followed. You know, I actually have a brother. Theo lifts a brow. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I nod. What's his name? Ian? I couldn't resist the smile that threatened to appear on my face as I thought of a memory. He was a great brother. You know, even though he made fun of me all the frickin' time. Oh yeah. Theo glances to me for a hot second and looks back to the road with a soft smile. Did he make fun of your short height? Too sorry. I meant font-sized. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I scoff. At the time, I was way taller than him. Theo hums before continuing. At the time. Where is he now? Contemplating. Where is he now? I couldn't help but feel the shame enter me. I didn't even know where my own brother is. I don't know. To my agent extraordinaire, lifeline. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I admit, I lean on the window and stare at the trees and the forest that lay in them. Probably delighted. Content. Maybe he might even be leading a rogue pack since he couldn't help let our old pack as gamma. A wave of melancholia immediately washes over me and I purse my lips together. Theo nods and waits a long second before speaking again very slowly, as if I was fragile. To my agent extraordinaire, lifeline. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. And how did the two of you separate? My smile falters and drops into a grim one. Now this is a memory I wasn't fond of. When my old elf exiled my family, we were taken in by a rogue pack on one condition. I pause, glancing at Theo's pressed lips and tight grip on the steering wheel. He clearly knew what the condition was. The condition was that one of us be used as a guinea pig of some sort, such as experiments every now and then. As you can see, since I'm so unique and perfect, they chose me. And then I guess one day I couldn't tolerate it anymore and I kind of abandoned them. I place my arm on the windowsill and lean on it, admiring the empty fields of grass and high mountains as they passed by. How Theo hesitates. How did they treat you? I purse my lips together. We led a pretty much no life. To my agent extraordinaire, lifeline. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. We had meals together frequently. We were all given responsibilities by the leader. My parents worked with the rest of the group while Ian and I were given training. I remember hating it so much I'd beg and cry not to go. The experiments weren't that bad either. The poison they gave us tasted like shit, but it didn't physically cause me pain. My childhood life was such a regular day, 2-day routine. Now that I think about it, it was pretty normal. Or so I thought. I close my eyes peacefully, feeling a hand reach for my thigh, the tingles appearing on my skin. I furrow my brows and whisper as quietly as I could, hoping Theo doesn't hear me. It was too normal. Either he didn't hear me, which I favor more than the other, or he simply chose not to reply. Still, Theo's hand on my thigh noticeably stiffens as I feel my consciousness slip. I ignore it, another thing I'm an expert in. I snuggle into my arm, despising the absence of a pillow. I'm going to sleep, I murmur before darkness takes its toll. I wake up to Theo nudging my shoulder and whispering, "Wake up." I groan, the laziness hitting me harder than ever. I gather up all my energy simply to open the car door and lift myself off the leather seat. Theo replicates me and leaves the car. I walk behind Theo and follow his steps to the pack house. He stops when he reaches a door and I do the same. I have work to do, so I won't be able to send you to your room. Theo's lip curls into his lopsided smile that made me swoon. Good night, Alexandria. A yawn escapes my mouth as I nod and turn on my heels so I could take my rest on the best thing ever made, my bed. Good night, Theo, I reply with a groggy voice. The only response was the sound of a door closing. Half awake, I bring myself to find my way to my room. Before I could finally reach the love of my life, the same soft voice that's been bothering me for the longest time puts me to a stop. Alexandria. Kara's voice calls out to me. I turn to her, only to see indifference on her face. Yes, Kara. I click my tongue mockingly and tilt my head. Suddenly, I wasn't so sleepy anymore. She rolls her eyes and takes a step closer to me. I resist the urge to take a step back, not wanting skin-to-skin contact, especially with her. To my fortune, she stops only a step in front of me and leans into the side of my head so her mouth aligned to where my ears were. I know more about you than you know, Alexandria. She pulls away with the familiar fake-ass smile on her face. You're so unlucky even I feel bad. Your life is gonna turn into shit tier than it already is. I ignored the spiking of my heart and how my breath hitched when she first opened her mouth to speak. Get your shit together, Alexandria. I mentally scolded myself. Oh yeah, a smirk reaches my face. My life was the shittiest it's been the moment I met you. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Your statement is completely false. Nothing else can turn my life into garbage except the moment I saw through your facade. I returned to finding my way to my room, feeling satisfied and refreshed at seeing the scowl on Kara's face. Go get some beauty sleep, Carmela, I shout as I continue to make my out. You really need it. Chapter 15. It's time you get proper training, Alex, was the first thing that came out of Theo's luscious lips earlier this morning. Apparently, the statement, "Good morning," didn't dare exist in his dictionary. After eating a surprisingly undisturbed breakfast, I gathered up all my energy to change and pick up my somehow heavier legs to the training grounds. And like always, I was late. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I have so many skills and strengths that hands is enough to count them all. I groaned and moved towards a shirtless Theo with heavy footsteps. And because I had no dignity to begin with, I shamelessly glanced up and down his perfect body. Covering his lower half was a pair of black sweatpants. Oh my, something about sweatpants just makes my heart skip 1,000,000 times per second. Liking the view. Babe, a familiar sultry voice calls out. I clasp my hands together and grin at him, nodding at the same time. Yeah, the sun's unusually bright and sparkly today. I release a loving sigh. Just like someone today. Theo says, his eyes scrutinizing my full black outfit. He smirks at me, somehow giving out a hint of satisfaction. Geez, thanks, I scoff. My eyes glaze over the empty field. There were shirtless men all over the place. Some of them panted and consumed deep breath barely at the warm-up while others finished the task with ease. The routine continued in every group led by Scarlett, Celestina, and Thea. I chuckle, glad that the warm-up was at its peak and I didn't have to suffer having to do it due to my extravagant way of showing up to schedules. Still scanning the field full of busy werewolves, my eyes finally land on a very interesting person, a slender woman with waist-length dark hair and green eyes, Kara. I hum and nudge Theo. Don't you think I should train with Celestina instead? He raises a brow upon seeing the mischievous and overexcited smile on my face. He turns his head so that his line of sight would be identical to mine. When he realized who I was looking at, he releases a hopeless sigh and says, "Whatever you feel like doing, Alexandria." I resist the urge to skip while I make my way to Celestina and the other women. On my way, Theo's voice calls out, "Try not to create trouble, my little mate." I smile to myself. Alexandria without trouble isn't Alexandria. I turn to look at him and shout back, "Yeah, it's not like I'm gonna pull a Mulan and come up with something tricky or something." Theo breathes out, "You're an Alexandria and it makes every trick one worse. I love that you know me so well. Theo, I'm off." I march towards Celestina, who stared impassively at the group of werewolves before her. When she heard my footsteps, her head snapped to my direction and a smirk reaches her lips. "I guess we have a new guest with us today," she mentions to herself loud enough for me to hear. "And a tardy one. Well, good morning to you too, Celestina," I tell her. She nods at a group of women who quietly looked at her, waiting for a command. Among them was a very happy Kara. A satisfied smile tugged at the corners of my lips when her grin dropped and her brows furrowed upon seeing my marvelous presence. "I won't be going easy on you. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." Celestina adds, "Still, something about her made me feel like she wouldn't dare let anything dangerous happen to me no matter how much she would deny it." I tilt my head and scoff, although a smirk was present on my face. I didn't ask for it anyways. I step away from Celestina and walk towards the sword. They tried so hard not to peer at me, but the sight glances I saw through my peripheral had defied them. I disregard them and look up at Celestina, also waiting for her order. Then, I cross my arms and put all my weight on one leg. Come on, girl. People are waiting. She opens her mouth to speak. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilbert, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. She starts off. The pretty blue eyes meet mine and remains in contact. We're going hunting. Now that's how I like it. I whisper, a barely noticeable smile entering my face. There was a series of groans and discontented sighs among the crowd. You guys are doing the hunt with me or running the rest of the 2 hours? Don't stop. Celestina demands. Either way, I don't want to hear I'd guess, and all your pathetic complaint, so I suggest all of you to cut it. There was an immediate silence. Celestina smiles at us, her cold demeanor prior to this long gone, moving away from us and towards the region surrounded by evergreen trees and mysteries. She says, follow me. I pick up my pace, wanting to be the first to reach the hunting grounds. When I passes by Celestina, I wink at her and say, I like it. Sorry, Mason. She rolls her eyes, but there was an evident smile on her face. When everyone finally came along the woodland, Celestina speaks with a thrilled image on her face. Since everyone is here and not a single person decided to back out, there should be no complaining, grouching, and all that dumb shit. Am I right? Some replied, yes, Gamma, while others simply lowered their head as a sign of submission and respect. I, of course, remained silent and still. Let's start. Shall we? Celestina says and steals a glimpse of me before her eyes wandered once again over the mass of women. She paces back and forth with her chest high up in the air, as if challenging us. Like always, this is a contest. Whoever brings me the best prey based on my standards triumphs. Many broke out in whispers, feeling motivated by challenge. Celestina continues to speak. This time, the winner may request anything she wishes for, and I will do my very best to grant it. The rule. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilbert, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm, is that it must be reasonable and harmless. An irresistible grin tugs on my face, content with the prize. You absolutely may not harm anyone in this pack, and you cannot steal one another's prey. She also mentions with much more emphasis. I didn't miss how her head whipped to me for a fraction of a second. The corners on my lips lifts into a lopsided smile. Secrets exist for a reason. And lastly, she concludes, you all have the rest of the 2 hours to fulfill this mission. I nod in response. You may begin, she finally says. Oh, and by the way, those hasn't left yet pause to listen for her final statement. I'd like a good meal. She smirks. I turn away from her and walk towards the hidden land masked by the humongous trees. I hear the familiar sound of nature, the crunch of the ground beneath my feet, and that same feeling of freedom. I was a rogue in its natural habitat. I notch and arrow, pull the bowstring back with steady hands, and lift the bow in the air, aiming for the already injured deer. The arrow lands precisely on its stomach and the poor deer collapses. This was my 5th prey. At this point, I was playing to hunt and not for a mission. My rogue habits was yearning to be set free, and Celestina gave me the chance to do so. I dropped the bow to my side and moved towards the lifeless animal when suddenly, a scream ripped through the air. I was slightly surprised. Knowing that I was at the very edge of the pack border, I was almost sure that no one else would risk endangering themselves. I immediately turned motionless, using the best of my senses to alert myself of any signs of danger. Silence. Wind. My eyes dart to my left and my right rapidly. Siamon. Ears do your work. All I heard was silence. An easy silence. Bile forms on my throat as the tension in the atmosphere continues to show its presence. I resist the urge to cuss out loud. Again, there was only silence. I narrow my eyes in concentration, refusing to close my eyes. My heart beat like crazy. Now you may think that scared would be the least I'd be because of my previous rogue status. But I wasn't that type of rogue. As a rogue, I traveled a lot. Still, I made sure I was near people, near towns, near homes, near civilization. I made sure I heard people's voices or signs of existence whenever I settled myself somewhere, anywhere. People were the sole thing I wanted to avoid so badly, were also the existence I needed most. I despised the feeling of not knowing what happens because I always had a plan. I wasn't scared of facing whatever was out there, but it was the unknown itself that scared me. It was the simple act of not knowing. Come at me, beast, I muttered to myself, disrupting the quiet environment. Let's get it over with. My ears perk up. Leaves. The repeating crunch of leaves followed by another and another almost simultaneously. Seems like someone's getting chased. I try to pick up more sounds and hints: 1 runner and 3 attackers in approximately 12 miles east within pack borders. The rapid beating of my heart ceases to a regular pace as the fear is no longer present. I followed the sounds without thinking. Just kidding. Of course I think. I just don't care. One day you'll get yourself killed. You idiot. I continue to run speedy, yet maintain my light footsteps in human form. If only I could shift at will. Damn it. It took me the next 4 minutes to get close enough to the suspects I had masked my scent beforehand. Then, I dropped to my stomach and put my weight on my elbow as I hide myself behind the crowded, tall trees. I are the 3 menacing rogues that halt in my line of sight. There was a gasp and a thump from a girl in front of them as she dropped to the ground in trembles. Well, look what we have here. I release under my breath as I take in the wonderful view that lay in front of me. This is interesting. I felt for my quiver and any movements the 4 individuals made. I then attach the arrow on the string and pull back. It zips through the air and hits the target with a THUCK. 3 pair of eyes turned to me, acknowledging my presence. One of them was the vibrant green eyes of an infuriating woman with raven black hair. She stares at me in shock, her lips parted and her eyes wide open. I give her a cocky smile and mouth. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience and enthusiasm. Then, I dart my eyes to the 2 wolves that gaped at me in anger. I won't just be bringing you a meal, Celestina. I'll bring you the whole buffet. Chapter 16. Their eyes burn into me, fear from Kara and anger from the 2 rogues. The rogue who I successfully struck earlier lifted himself up, gazing up at me with the most maddening fire in his eyes. His wound disappeared as fast as it was inflicted. The shirtless man growls at me and flashes his canines at me with the most roguish way possible. I imitate his actions. This was a rogue communicating with a rogue. After a few moments, I begin to wonder when this staring contest would end. Tired of this stupid game, I broke eye contact and flaunt my fake street smile. So I begin. How's your day going, young gentleman? The 3 rogues look at each other quickly before the shirtless bonded. It was great, but now that I met you. He pauses and I raise an eyebrow. It's quite outstanding. If I say so, I believe you'd maybe want to take back that statement. He smirks and takes a step towards me. Kara's eyes dart between him and I in panic. The stranger cocks his head and questions. And why is that? I nod to the direction behind him. Look back. Foolish. All 4 of them, including Kara, are idiots. A part of me believed that their brain capacity had reached its limit as they aged out of 4 years old. When I said that, all 4 of them turned their bodies and snapped their heads behind them, searching for an answer only to be met by the vast space of emptiness. I almost gasped in disbelief. How could life be this simple? I take advantage of this and station my already loaded bow before shooting the same guy. This time, the arrow had been tipped with silver. I stole it from the pack storage. Fortunately for me, silver is a strong poison that will leave said person immobile for a time. To my demise. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. This arrow only had the amount of silver that would knock out a wolf for only 20 minutes to an hour, depending on how strong the wolf actually is. It was my greatest of luck that these rogues were not of high position or strong enough to withstand the effects of such poisons. Like I expected, he drops to his knees before he face, planted on the ground once again. I cringe, imagining the feeling of wet dirt on my face. 3 heads snapped to me to bared their canines at me and extended their claws, while the other darted to me and all over the place. As if uncertain, Kara looks at me with the most unsettling and doubtful expression that even I couldn't interpret it. Before I could say anything, my eyes catch movement at my peripheral. THUCK. I was quick to process it and completed the motion that seemed indented into my nature, shooting another wolf with precision. The man groans and clutches his chest as he slowly drops down to the floor. Easy peasy. The last rogue dared to not miss one single fraction of a second before lunging to my direction. I almost stumble, feeling startled. Stop underestimating people. Alexandria. I prepare myself to dodge any forms of attacks, when suddenly, the angered man shifts direction and charges towards where Kara was. Reload. Aim release. The arrow hits his back just like I wanted it to, but what it didn't do was knock him out like I wanted. The arrow digs into his skin, causing dark red blood to drip down his bare back. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I was facing the inevitable. He did not fall down or even stumble one bit. A painful groan was the only thing telling me that he felt even an ounce of pain. This guy was strong enough to withstand the silver effects for a small duration. Still, that doesn't mean he could resist it forever. The beads of sweat and heavy breathing told me so. The man continued to march towards Kara in undeniable speed and wraps an arm around her neck. If you weren't gonna help me, at least run away. Goddess. Kara's feet remain planted to the ground, refusing to make a single movement. The rogue looks up at me, his brows furrowed. Still, he sported a satisfied smirk on his cocky visage. He releases a shaky breath before speaking. I suggest you drop the puny little weapon of yours before I slash my claws on scared little Missy's neck. Kara whimpers, contributing to the rogue's pride. With his arms still around her neck, he sniffs her neck and drags a wet tongue along the nape of her neck. I scrunch my nose in disgust. But Kara definitely was at the worse end of the situation. She looks at me with pleading eyes, tears forming. The man chuckles and eyes me in a challenging way. Getting the memo, I place my quiver and bow on the ground beside my feet. Pleased, he commands. Now get closer. Get over here, you damned woman. I scoff and glare at him, dismissing his command. You either move or Missy here. He glances at Kara. We'll end up dead in a snap of a finger. I roll my eyes and say, never said I wanted her alive. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. At this, Kara's eyes widen, her tears finally released as it fell down her cheeks. Her mouth trembles before a small sob sounds through the forest. Oh yeah, the man challenges, flashing his canines and glazing then at the surface of Kara's skin. She closes her eyes, controlling herself from panicking. I wave my arms up in surrender. I shout as I take wary steps towards them. Pick up your legs. You're goddamn slow. Okay, you slow-minded freak. He narrows his eyes at me and growls out. Say that again. Weakling. Oh, are you deaf now? 2. I question an intention to rile him up. Come on. Keep talking. The guy's speech was starting to wobble and sweat covered his forehead, implying that the silver was starting to get to him. Just a few more minutes. Yeah, your shrilly voice caused me to turn into this. Sweetheart. Ooh, I coo. Do I make you tremble and sweat? He growls lowly at me. Well, someone's a little mad today. I mutter loud enough for him to hear. I suggest you zip your mouth shut and surrender. Cupcake, he demands. His grip on Kara tightened and she releases a shaky breath in response. No can do. He grins at this and questions. You know what? Tu es agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I questioned blankly. I'm tired of this bullshit. If I can't kill two birds with one stone, then I must at least get one. Say goodbye to little Miss Scaredy Cat. Little girl, he rambles as he extends his claws and canines. No way am I taking responsibility for her death. I pushed my legs to run as fast as they could towards Kara, watching as the sharp tip of his claw touched the surface of her neck. Before he could fully graze onto Kara's skin, I charged towards him and headbutt him. I feel my cheek sting as his claws scrape my skin. We both fall onto the ground, struggling for the upper hand. Unfortunately for me, he earns it. I wrestle underneath him, struggling to release my ray held down by strong forces from both his hands. Constantly, he wastes a second releasing my hand in an attempt to swipe at my face. He was only met by my hands holding them back to stray away from my face. Give up, weakling. I believe I should be the one saying that. Old man, I retort. I pant as I put up with his hold on me. Funny, he knocks. I scoff and add, we all know. Dead is what we'll know of you soon enough. I release a groan as he grazes my cheek once again. It's whatever. I'm still pretty. This ain't Hollywood. Grandpa. I continue. We don't steal lines here. He bellows in laughter before saying, good gracious, he exclaims. I follow his eyes as it moves to the object close to the back of my head. Oh no, because the only thing I'll be stealing is your life. I was no way in hell dying without telling everyone how useless Kara has been. Before I knew it, pain pierces through my head followed by a loud ringing in my ears. I groan and feel wet blood fall down my face. I would have clutched my head if not for the heavy arms that made sure to keep it planted to the ground. Not gonna lie, I ramble as another wave of pain forced me to shut my eyes close and squint in agony. He hits pretty hard. That kinda hurt. Old man. He tries to force a smirk, only to be stopped by a strong discomfort. The silver effects was finally completing its use. Fucking finally. He drops beside me, clutching his head as he groaned in pain. His eyes rolls to the back of his head before slumber forces him down. I laugh despite the equal pang of pain I felt. I bring myself up to sit on my butt, glaring at Kara's useless self. Her gaze drops to her feet in shame. Rushed footsteps enters my eardrums and soon enough, bodies of people come out of the tall trees. One of them was Theo. Painfully, I force myself to get up on my feet. Theo, I start, only to stop myself when I see him rush to Kara in panic, searching for any signs of injury. So much for a mate. The ringing in my ears seemed to keep getting louder and louder. After a light grip on his sister's shoulders, he wastes no time searching for me. When his eyes land on me, he grimaced and hurried to me. I sigh peacefully at my mate's presence and grin. Then, I open my arms wide open as I wait for my deserved hug, only to be met by the familiar rush of air as I fall. Thankfully, my head lands on a pair of comfortable arms. I engulf Theo's scent and snuggle into his chest as he raises my legs with another arm before raising me to carry me bridal style. Rest now, dear mate. I hear Theo's intoxicating voice lull me into sleep. Took you long enough. Slowpoke. I make sure to add before a well-needed sleep overtakes me. Chapter 17. I take a bite of my favorite mocha, can eat my favorite spaghetti dinner like a normal person. I drink the cup of water just like the everyday person. I sip on the cup full of poison that made me more insane by the minute like it was normal. I smile and sigh in content just like how every other person does after eating a refreshing full meal. But normal was a privilege I couldn't have. Suddenly, my smile drops and my lips begin to quiver, a sob threatening to escape. I hiss out and let the tears drop down my cheeks until the familiar taste of saltness reaches my lips. I spout. I wanted to shift. I wanted to prance around the room. I wanted to punch a wall. I wanted to do something to move, but I couldn't. So I bring my trembling handcuffed hands and chained wrists to my hair and grip it tightly, then scream silently, a scream only to be heard by the four walls that caged me. I gasp and subconsciously grip the sheets of the unfamiliar bed. Meanwhile, my eyes dart around the black walls, as well as the gold and white hints of stationeries and furniture. A lavender fragrance tells me that it was Theo's room, and I quickly wipe off the unreleased tears in my eyes. I hope no one saw. Then, my eyes land on a mop of long brown hair and muscle. A pool of honey orbs glare at mine deeply as Beta Felix crosses his arms across his chest. I bring myself up and lean on the back of the bed before continuing the eyeing contest. Narrowing my eyes at him, I try to communicate. Don't tell Theo. Don't tell Theo. Don't tell Theo. Unfortunately for me, mind linking was an ability only official higher-ups were gifted in. In return, Felix narrows his eyes as well and his gaze remains fixated on me. Luckily, before the eyeing contest lasts for much more, the sound of the doorknob twisting has the Beta and I turning our heads. The door opens and my gorgeous mate enters my line of sight. I frown when I feel Beta Felix's burning gaze on me. I welcome Theo with a warm smile and he returns the favor. He leads himself to me and sits on a chair beside his bed. A tray with soup and a cup of water on his lap. Oh, he drags on after blowing on the spoonful of soup. I open my mouth, then grin as he feeds me nonchalantly. Cute stitches, Theo points out as take another sip, just like its owner. I retort arrogantly, with an amused smile. Theo says, suddenly I don't find him cute anymore. He raises the spoon to my mouth again and I take a mouthful of the soup. Your immune system sucks for a wolf. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. He continues, you're the first wolf I'd ever met who needed stitches over such a small injury. I just came out of war and I'm injured. At least give me a compliment. I huff and roll my eyes. Give me 3 decades then. Compliments and you just don't blend well together, wow. I cross my arms and glare at Theo, to which he gained amusement from. Fine, fine. He chuckles. He hums and says, you have great pain tolerance. Oh really? Theo laughs in the most indecorous way possible before continuing. Dr. Walsh refused to waste anesthesia on you and still. You were sleeping soundly while he angrily did your stitches. As everyone can see, I was very well loved in this pack. Bitches don't cry, I reply. Suddenly, an old figure makes his presence known. Beta Felix snorts ridiculously, making Theo and I pause and acknowledge his presence. Theo raises a brow at me before asking, mind telling me why my Beta has been eyeballing like some predator you the moment I entered the room? I shrug and lie. I don't know. Theo eyes me like I was being suspicious and I eat the soup from the tray. Yeah. What about it? Soda. Theo rolls his eyes then lifts his hand to caress my cheek. His brows furrow and pain shines through his grey orbs for a fraction of a second before it disappeared as his thumb swipes over the stitches softly. Did it hurt? He asks with a shaky breath. Of course it did. No. I stutter like some idiot I am. He lifts himself and moves the tray off his lap then to the spot beside me. I feel him place a light kiss from his soft lips on my forehead until he places his forehead against mine, his tight hand still on my cheek. Thank you, he tells me sincerely. My heart warms up and my cheeks flush at the statement. Why, you're welcome, I reply, fully knowing what he was talking about. Still, the surprise of receiving such a heartfelt gratitude got to me. This was the first time someone was truly thankful for me. I feel his lips curl into a smirk before he caresses his thumb against my cheek one last time. Then, his hands travel and feel the skin under my jaw. He leans down and places a soft peck on the spot. I feel tingles on my skin and I almost broke out in giggles. I'll get you your soda, he concludes. My eyes follow his back as he leaves the room then travels to Beta Felix who was leaning against the wall impassively. His dark brows were furrowed together like always and his lips remained downcast, giving off the impression that one little move will make him blow up in anger. He refused to say anything for the longest time. What's your problem? I question. You are an idiot, was the only thing that comes out of his mouth. And you're worse than anger from inside out. You are childish. You remind me of a fucking grenade. Beta Felix huffs and continues to glare at me. You are a crybaby. To my agent extraordinaire, Luna, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Oh no you didn't. I gasped slowly. For the first time, the corner of his lips lift into a faint smile. Yes I did. He puffs out his chest and says with pride. I scrunch my nose and retort. Childish. That's all you. He huffs out. Fuck you. You cuss more than my mother seeing uncooked rice. I muster up my deadliest glare and reply with a. Your brows are thicker than those birds from an RG. A knock on Theo's bedroom door immediately pulls us out of our little banter. Beta Felix marches to the door to open it. But not before he squints his eyes at me for the millionth time. My mood drops viciously when I see the horrid figure that awaited me by the door. Kara. May I enter? Kara asks me, with respect and an uplifting smile. Still, the insane glimmer in her eyes grew and her whole goody-two-shoes facade. To my agent extraordinaire, Luna, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I say hesitantly. I stop myself from feeling queasy about what she was planning to do. Thank you. Then, she turns to the weirdo of a beta and requests, if you'd be so kindly and leave us. The tone in her voice made me feel like it was more of a demand rather than a question. With a gruff, he leaves the room in an unsure manner. My wolf senses hear him whisper you are a coward to Kara before leaving the room. The grimace on her face signaled that she too heard the insult. Anyways, what is taking Theo so long? What do you want? I question Kara abruptly. Now, is that what you're supposed to say to a victim? She replies, obviously. You're not gonna thank me for your cowardice. So drop the act and cut to the chase. I spit out. A headache was starting to form and I was getting more and more irritated by the minute. Kara's smile drops right away and she stares at me as if I was some disgusting bug. I'm not a mirror. Stop staring at me like that. I snap. An ache pulsed through my head and my tolerance continues to lower. Fire burns through her eyes and I take notice her jaw clench and unclench. She releases a dry laugh before continuing. Do you really want to know why I was out in deepest part of the woods? I don't reply and I stare at her with uncertainty. She doesn't wait for my reply and resumes. I was meeting a very. She pauses and eyes me. Very special someone. What's your worrying around have to do with me? Her brow lifts in irritation, but she remains composed and unbothered. It does if it's your brother I'm talking about. She scoffs. My heart beats faster and faster on its own accord and my mind goes blank. For my reaction, she only smirks and smugly says, Ian is very fond of me, if I say so myself. I grip the sheets and look down on an attempt to control my anger and jealousy. Instead of searching for his endangered missing little sister, who he fully knows where her location is, he's spending more time helping another woman. Instead of saving his little sister, he's saving another woman. Short story. No one cares about you. I can't imagine Theo doing that to me. It would have broken me. She shares with an ugly, horrendous grin on her face. I don't give a fuck. I hiss out. My heart drops at her statement and my grip on the sheet seems to tighten as I control myself from throwing a punch or two. Restrain yourself, Alexandria. She cackles and sports a vicious, yet saddening smile on her face before proceeding in her rant. Since you can handle all this bad news, then surely this won't affect you at all. Just say it. I inform her shortly. Shut up. Shut up. Just shut the fuck up. Even though there was a confident smile on her face and her chin was up, I see her take a small step back and I sent a hesitant vibe throughout her. The last thing I heard was the sharp intake of breath before I blew up. Mother Catalina wishes you well. That was enough to make snap and lunge towards her. My wolf's presence made sure to make her presence known as my irises turn into a sadistic shade of red and my teeth transform into canines. Thirsty for blood. Monsters don't only exist under your bed. I growl at her. Chapter 18. My wolf instinct pushes me to tighten my grip around Kara's neck and slam her against the wall. The gasp that emits from her makes me smile even as I trembled one anger. Frustrated tears fill my eyes and blur my eyesight. I grit my teeth together in an attempt to keep my emotions in check before my wolf takes complete control. You know, I see that she choked against my hold. You're a fucking bitch. I soften my grip, willing to hear her response. The only response I hear was a laugh that immediately turned into a fit of coughing. How do you think Theo will react if I tell him about what you've done? I question. Then, I release her neck and drop my hands to my side in a form of a fist. Her lips curve into a mocking smile and it feeds my bitterness. Someone must really want to die. Who do you think Theo will believe more? She instigates. His soft and innocent little sister or some overbearing stranger who can't keep her temper in check. Soft and innocent my ass. I dryly laugh out. She ignores me and continues with a smug expression, stating, "Do you really think Theo will ever believe you? You were a rogue. For God's sake, do you even know anything about this pack? Anything about any of us? Anything about Theo? Ask yourself, when has anyone ever trusted you with anything?" I clench my jaws, her words sent a stab to my heart. The headache in my head that's been showing its presence since earlier pulsed more painfully than the one before. All this was contributing to my growing frustration. I hiss out as I force myself to keep my tears in. When she didn't hear a response from me, she proceeds. Reality check. Alexandria, you'll never be good enough. But it's not like you try to be good enough anyways. Iant says you were an arrogant little girl. By the way, I scoff and breath out. How would you know? Oh, trust me. I know everything. She mocked. I know how you're always the second choice. Second choice to your parents. Second choice to Ian. And now, second choice to Theo. What a sad fucking life. I fought hard not to blink and my eyesight blurs even more. I dig my fingers on the palm of my hands hard enough that I feel the stinging of a cut on my skin as a way to keep myself together. It healed as fast as I inflicted it. Unfortunately, Kara was trying her hardest to destroy my plan of stopping myself from killing her. The only time you were ever a option was the moment your parents gave you to the rogues as a guinea pig instead of their beloved son. She cackled. That did it. I felt hurt, embarrassed, and powerless. Second choice. My muscles were tense and I was shaking from anger. My jaw was clenched and my mouth felt as dry as a desert. I bare my teeth as my surroundings seemed to fade. My mind forced me to mute out everything and I was trying my best not to lash out of anger. I felt pained emotionally and physically from the throbbing in my head. Not good enough. But that did it. I was done keeping myself in check and keeping this talking bitch alive. I was ready to end her life. I meet her eyes and for the first time, she shows pure fright. Fairly she screams, only to be stopped by my hands on her bruised neck once again. Only this time my grip was tighter and my wolf's claws left a scar on her neck. Kara struggles for air and she brings up her hands to mine, trying so hard to pull them off her. Who's laughing now? I taunt her. Her eyes moisten and she resorts to kicking me with her legs in an attempt to save her life. She's taking too long to die. Suddenly, she stops and her eyes turn into a bright shade of green. Heavy footsteps enters my ears and the door slams open. A concerned Felix stares at me with wide eyes. Still, he doesn't stop and only gives me a pitiful look. What is it that I don't know? Rushed footsteps follow Felix and scent overcomes my senses before he enters the door. He charges towards me and pulls me away from Kara, making me stumble but not enough to make me fall to the floor. I watch in silence as Theo held a sobbing Kara to his chest. He pelts her with comforting words and places his lips on the top of her head. Second, Kara's mocking voice enters my mind and voids out all other thought. An embarrassing tear drops and falls down my cheek. I didn't wipe it off and merely looked down on the ground in shame. Then, I notice Emilio and Scarlett's presence join them. Emilio's eyes dart towards the siblings and while Scarlett immediately stormed towards Kara. She pulls in Kara for a hug, causing Theo to return to reality me. Realization dawns Emilio and he blurts out, "Oh shit." Him and Felix remain by the open doorway as they look at me with what seemed like pity. Theo refuses to look back where I was and analyzes Kara's bruising neck, his thumb caressing her bright red skin. Scarlett holds her hands and comforts her. Soon enough, Her sobs started to die down, but still existent. How beautiful. Abruptly, Scarlet nods her head and meets my gaze with hatred. When she hears another sob from Kara, her eyes soften and she coos. I'm here. I almost cackled as I taste the saltness from my tears. What did she do? Scarlet demands from Kara. She spits her words with clear bitterness. I eye Theo as his back tenses, and it was almost enough to make me break down. She slurs. I almost gasp in disbelief. All I said was that her mother wishes her well, then she lost her temper and started choking me. What did I do wrong? Any mother would wish her child well if she misses them. Lies. 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 She fully knows what that simple statement would do to me, and she's making herself sound like some saint. Everyone looks at me for a response, and for the first time, Theo turns to me. It made me wish that he didn't. He watches my tear-stained face with an emotional expression so void of emotion that it scared me. Is it true? Theo asks, painfully waiting for my response as he held his trust for me with a thin strong. Yes, I say shortly and search for any signs of faith in his eyes. Where I didn't see any. Another tear falls down my cheek. Then why? He questions me with so much hopelessness and disapproval that it sent an aching pang to my heart. She was mocking me, Theo. She was making fun of me. Of everything about me. She was ridiculing me. Theo, I tried to explain in a fit of tears that I didn't try to keep in anymore. She was harmless, Alexandria. Scarlet disrupts me. She didn't do anything wrong. You disgusting rogue. Theo doesn't say anything, and I look at him pleadingly with tear-filled eyes. It might not mean anything, but to me it did. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I exasperate, stopping in between to control a sob. Scarlet scoffs and spat. You should be glad you have a mother alive and wishing you well. That broke me. Suddenly, my mouth felt drier than it was prior. I looked down on my feet, wishing so much for this to end and the desire to be alone. I control the urge to laugh as a form of coping. I hear Theo sigh and feel his finger on my chin, lifting it up so that my eyes meet his once passionate grey eyes. Tell me, Alexandria, tell me why you're acting like this. He almost pleads. I look at him, analyzing his uncertainty and worn-out expression. Why should I? It's not like you tell me anything either. I explained myself once and I refused to beg for someone's approval. Hurt flashes through his eyes before a stoic expression returns. His hands curl into fists. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Have her patrol the borders starting tonight and for the rest of the month as her punishment. He commands. Felix nods in response, and I refuse to say anything, not sure of what I was really feeling. I was tired of these people, of anyone. Then, he turns to Kara, his tone softening. Jerk. Get dressed, Kara. We haven't done a sibling day in a while. A disbelieving laugh from me disrupts them. Really, Thea? Anything wrong? Scarlet sneers. Do you all want to know the real difference between rogue packs and werewolf packs? When the only reply was silence, I continue. It's that in rogue packs, everyone is treated and punished accordingly. What are you trying to say? She says, her brows furrowed in anger as she eyes me up and down. Apparently, in this pack, words don't hurt as much as punches. I made sure to shove Theo as I leave his room and all the gaping stares. I rush out of the pack house ready to shift into my relentless, furious wolf stir in my stomach and my chest. Chapter 19. 1 week. It's been 1 fucking week since Theo last spoke to me, and 7 patrol as my punishment. After 1 week, my anger had simmered down, but apparently Theo hadn't forgotten. Every time I tried to even approach them even 1 fucking step, they seemed to intentionally leave the room or pretend to talk amongst themselves like in your little kids. No one fucking understands. Constantly, I had to remind myself that I was mad at Theo and everyone else before I let myself get taken over the urge to talk to them, and mostly Theo. The mate bond was making me fret and stress over every little thing. I was getting more annoyed and got ticked off over every little thing. To my luck, Beta Felix was in charges of patrol and became my very victim. He became somewhat like my own punching bag to feed my irritation. God, my temper is really unappealing. You know, to my agent extraordinaire, Myelin Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. You should audition for Tarzan. He growls. Watch it. Catalina. Aye. Cat. I mark. Get your shit together and watch for any trespassers or rogues among the premises. He commands. I let out a humorless laugh. You have a bad eye. He only rolls his eyes and returns to his alert state. I knew I was irritating him, and I knew that he and the others were also already stressed ever since Kara had been attacked by rogues. Since that incident, rogue disturbances have greatly increased. They were seen holding meetings and eyeing the territory as if they were trying to map it out. It was as they were making themselves known that they were shamelessly planning an attack. Theo, getting the memo, increased the number of warriors guarding the territory, including me. I thought it was nothing, that it was no problem. But the weary and fatigued expressions almost everyone in the pack sported told me it was something more. The situation must be getting out of hand. And apparently, I wasn't well informed. It's not like anyone tells you anything anyways. So I continue to do what I do best, annoying people. Are you exhausted? I questioned Felix, fully knowing the answer. The young bait merely sighs and grunts at me. I bet you ought to let out your frustration on someone. No, he huffs and nods. Like a rogue. I add. He snaps his head to me and runs a hand through his long hair before admitting. You're right. Unstressed and everyone else stressing makes me more stressed out. I just want to go down the cellars and throw a punch at a rogue or two. I pause and shrug at his honesty, then continue with a smug smile. I'm a rogue. I reach my hands towards him as if they were secured in handcuffs. Felix shakes his head and watches me, skeptical. You're insane. He breathes out and a lazy smack dances on my lips. With furrowed brows and downcast lips, he slaps my hands away. This pack drives me insane. I joke. Felix shakes his head and huffs at me the most disappointed way possible. Anthony, he says as he calls for another warrior. Take charge while I take a small break. It'll take 15 minutes, if not less. Yes, sir. The man called Anthony replies. And you? Follow me. Gladly. I grumble. I felt like a child being scolded by a parent. Only I was too grown to be identified as a child and too troublesome to be kept by my own parents. He leads me to a denser portion of the forest, far from the others but close enough that he could sense any oncoming danger coming on their part. I meant it when I said you're an idiot. And I meant it when I said you're a ticking bomb who could blow up any minute. I retort. How can you even tell? He continues, like right now. He grunts and breathes out a, you're the most infuriating woman I've ever met. Thanks. I day with a lazy smirk. I hear that a lot. Maybe it was the saltness in my tone of the slight bitterness that I didn't even notice that shined in my eyes. But Felix's thick brows started to furrow in concern and a frown tugged on his lips. He eyed me with so much distress it almost made me sad myself. He didn't talk to me for a while and I didn't have the courage to speak either. Seeing him look at me with sympathy and without the sternness on his visage felt so foreign. It was so unlike his temperamental attitude. You know, he breaks the awkward silence. I had a mate head. I keep my mouth shut and listen to him earnestly despite my surprise from his abrupt truthfulness. When I meet his gaze that focused at a far distance with so much passion, I looked down on instinct. It felt like I was disturbing such a precious moment. He was perfect for me. He says softly, as cheesy as it sounds. He was my soulmate and I couldn't ask for anyone else more meant to be for me than him. I nod slightly as I felt a small ache in my heart when his voice sounded so heartbroken. I admired his bravery for being so open to me about his past and his identity. Maybe, even the deepest part of me felt amazed that someone trusted me enough. What was he like? The boss's fervent vibe was getting to me and I felt an unusual closeness to whoever this person was. I hear a heartfelt laugh before he continued. He was amazing. I couldn't help but fall in love with him every time I see him. He made me feel more complete in a span of 2 years, more than anyone else ever had. We weren't perfect and we didn't expect perfection, but with him, everything felt more perfect than anything else. I softly release a heartfelt laugh along with him as we imagine the memory. Felix turns to me with a peaceful and soft expression, a picture I made sure to capture, knowing that this was once in a lifetime. So what I'm trying to say, he tells me, is that for both you and Theo to please cherish the times you have together. I know you're on the worst end of this situation, but I see it. I see the future you both could have, and I don't want anything to risk not having that future. So please, despite the challenges, I'm asking you to try. I'll only say this once, but you're an amazing person. To my agent extraordinaire, Logan, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. And Theo's been through a lot, and I definitely know you didn't have any better. I nod, my heart suddenly feeling lighter. You want answers, am I right? To my agent extraordinaire, Logan, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I mutter, I believe Theo has the right to tell you his secrets on his own, but I'll tell you one thing. I nod my head furiously, glad that I could finally hear some answers, even if it was a tiny little detail. All I can say is that he blames himself a lot for reasons that he couldn't have avoided either way. He slowly informs me, and he's doing so much to gain back and fix what he believes he's fragmented in his younger days. Most importantly, his sister. She's the very person he wishes to never break again, and she's the person he'll protect the most. I stare at a distance with so many thoughts running in my mind. Feelings stir inside me, and I look down in shame as I recognize a very slight jealousy. I try to push back that feeling to the depths of my heart. There will be a time Theo will choose his sister over his mate. I grit my teeth together as I run his words through my mind over again. Then he must be an idiot. I huff, breaking the vehement aura around us. Felix sports a lopsided smile and speaks again. Do you know why our beautiful moon goddess put you two together? I raise my brow, piqued. Why so? You're the only one strong enough mentally and physically to be able to handle with a past and a burden like Theo. He tells me with pure honesty. I rise my chest and put my chin up smugly. He rolls his eyes at this, but the corner of his lips lifted upwards. And what is he to me? Tilting my head, he meets my eyes and carried on. Something about you tells me that at some point in life past, present, or future, Theo was your savior. Oh really? I say under my breath, my heart thrumming. So many secrets that I don't know. But I did know one thing. This pack seemed to know more about me than I expected, almost as if they were connected to my past itself. I never run. Too bad? I voice out with a smile on my face. I believe you made your first inaccurate statement the moment you called me an idiot.